We do need to get up there like soon. Yeah.
Good morning. I'm going to call the regular meeting of the Monterey Peninsula Airport District Board of Directors, August 21st, 2024, to order at 8:01 a.m. Roll call, please.
Director Travagian,
Present.
Director Gagliotti,
Here.
Director Pick,
Here.
Director Miller,
Here.
Chair Leffel.
Here, thank you so much. Director Gagliotti, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
Pledge
allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Communications, announcements, informational items from staff.
I would call your attention, those who weren't here, or maybe you were all here. We had an extremely successful launch of Sun Country. Not in small part, but in large part because of the efforts of Chris Morello and her team in pulling together what was a very successful event. The folks at Sun Country certainly noticed it and were very pleased with what they saw. They love the market. We continue to do well, not great on the number of passengers, but this is going to take a little bit of time. It's a big market and we're opening it up for the very first time, and not one that most people would have said, this is going to work perfectly. It's not a slam dunk, but it is working, and we'll continue to work to improve its performance in the market, and certainly its the knowledge of our community in Monterey. So I think that was a successful launch, well noticed by the airline, and I wanted to say thank you to those that were involved in pulling it all together. I had the pleasure of flying back for the very first time in my career on the inaugural flight, which was just an absolute blast.
Cool.
That was it.
Good. Well, along that line, while we're on that topic, I thank staff profusely, but I cannot say enough, I think, how successful it was and how people felt. It was funny to stand there because everybody had sunglasses and hats and stuff on, and people kept coming and giving hugs. I had no idea who they were until like a day later, somebody said, "It was so good to see you there." And I'm like, "It was great seeing you, but I didn't know who you were."
Yeah.
So we had a lot of locals who actually have family there who booked it and they'd already had tickets going there, but they changed and flew back on Sun Country, and they were really, really grateful. So I think we're going to see some good ridership on it. I hope we do.
A lot of work to do, but the work is well worth it. The long-term prognosis is very positive. So.
And then the other item was the Motorlux event, which was also extremely well done. And I have to say that Mr. Van Valkenburg gave a really nice shout out to the board and the staff when he made his opening remarks. He was very complimentary of the partnership with the airport. So he did a nice job of acknowledging the fact that we are the overall host. So it was good. Anyone else?
Ma'am.
Okay. Public comments for non-agenda items, and I'll open it up to the public on Zoom first. If there is anyone who would like to make a comment on any item that is not on the agenda, and please limit yourself to 3 minutes.
See no hands, Madam Chair.
All right. Is anyone in the audience that would like to make a comment on an item? Please come forward and state your name.
Morning, everyone. My name is Uwe Grolbecker. Good morning, gentlemen, ladies. I see here two buddies in this airport operating. One is the FAA, which takes care of everything. The minute the airplane takes off the gate, it comes back home. That's one discussion we can have for a whole another day, many days. And the other part is Michael up here with his operation here on staff. in the office. When Mike goes out and looks for business, he contacts the airlines. And he says, would you like to come to Monterey? So he calls American Airlines, says, how about Dallas? Calls Phoenix, calls others. He starts negotiating the tariffs. So the airlines come back, I would assume, and say, yeah, we want minimum guarantee of seats, for which you're gonna have to probably find some grants and guarantee certain revenues for the airlines who come to Monterey. Well done. So then they give you a list of departures for Monterey. And they give you, let's say, 5 a.m. all the way till midnight. And you look at that and you say, well, I have the night curfew that used to be 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. But you know, let's see what they say. I'm going to say, I don't want it at first. I want just daytime flights. So American Airlines comes back and says, well, you have to take the good and the bad. We're not just going to give you the good ones. We also have to take the early flights. And then Mike looks at it and says, well, forget about the public. Let's just do the business, sign the contract. And these are the departures we have here from Monterey from now on to Dallas. So it's you who decides when the departure is here at the airport. It's not the FAA. It's not the airlines. It's our own office here, Michael up here's office, and the staff who decides when departures are going to be and not. In negotiation with the airlines, of course, but you signed the contract. So let me read something to you. What was a complaint about the early flights, which just happened this last month. And by the way, you know who I'm running against in District 3. I've been going around the neighborhood. I can tell you there are a lot of people ticked off about these early flights. I mean, not just New Monterey, it's all over. It's from Salinas, Monterey, everywhere. So there was this person who complained about these early flights. And the response from the airport was, I responded by saying this is a scheduled flight and schedules are set by the airlines. The airport has no say in the scheduling and we are required to be available 24/7. We have no authority to allow aircrafts to fly or take off. That's misleading the public. That's not true. So I would like for you to talk to your staff and correct that and be more cautious about how we respond to the public. You are the one who negotiates these departures. You are the one who brings these airlines in. You're the one who decides, change the schedule of the nighttime curfews from, which previously was 10 p.m., 7 a.m. to midnight to 5 a.m.
Mr. Grobeck, your time has expired.
Thank you so much.
All right. Is there anyone else in the audience? Seeing none, I'm going to close public comment. Thank you. We have a consent agenda and we have on there 5 items. Is there anyone from the public that would like to pull an item on the consent agenda?
I see none, madam.
All right. Is there anyone from the board who would like to pull an item?
Yes, Madam Chair. I'd like to pull item E3 for edit.
All right. Anyone else? All right, I would entertain a motion on items 1, 2, 4, and 5.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Director Tubagian, Aye. Director Gagliardi,
Aye.
Director Pick,
Aye.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Chair Level.
Yes, thank you. Director Pick.
Thank you, Chair. We had an excellent meeting of the Community Relations Committee, and I think in the minutes, I would like to recommend we add that Directors Leffel and Pick thank the members of the public for coming and sharing their concerns and encourage them to continue the dialogue with the committee. You get that, Denise? Okay. Madam Chair, that's all I have.
Okay, I'm just looking while you pulled that. I had a note on that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Under the item that, on page 2 of 3 on that one, Denise, that there was a discussion about Allegiant Airlines and what appears to be a lack of communication with their passengers about delays. And I think what we talked about was a better communication between the airlines and the other tenants who are impacted and the airlines and our staff, to keep them more apprised of what the timing is and what's going on, so that everybody who is helping the passengers will have more of an idea of what the timing is. Any discussion on any of that? With that, I would accept a motion on item 3 on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All right, roll call, please.
Director Trabajian,
Aye.
Director Gagliardi,
Aye.
Director Pick,
Aye.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Chair Lovell.
Yes, thank you so much. All right. Do we have HOK online?
We do. We have Alan Bright and Bart Van Vliet. From HOK, it's time we got you up to date on the design of the terminal building. We're a little over 50% done with construction drawings. Those will be done and ready to go to bid by fourth quarter this year, which means we're making good progress, but there have been a few things that have been tweaked a little bit, and we thought it would be good to show you where we're currently at in the design phase, and talk a little bit about some of the things that are ahead of us as we move forward. So Bart and Alan, you want to take it away?
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you for having us this morning. Could you please acknowledge that you can hear me in the room?
I
Yes.
hear you. Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, so it's myself and Alan, the design principal for HOK this morning. And yeah, like Mike said, we want to give you an update, kind of show you where we are and what we've been doing, and give you some more insights into what the project is shaping out to be. So I'm going to share my screen and share a presentation. So there you go. And I'll give the introduction, and then I'll hand it off to Alan to take us through the design. And as always, feel free to ask any questions during the meeting or during the presentation. Sometimes easier when you see something, you think of it, to ask it immediately. So don't feel you have to let us run through the whole thing first. We're happy to address any questions, comments you would have. So today we want to just take you quickly through the timeline, where we are in the project, and how far we've got to go, and then take you through the architectural design, which you had seen previously in kind of an earlier stage of the development, and then I obviously had seen some interior images, but now we really want to take you through the development of that interior design. So we had our design development DD submission on June 14th, and that took us into kind of the final phase of the design phase, which is the construction documents, the CD phase. That's going to take us all the way through mid-November. And at that point, we'd be ready to kind of put those drawings and specifications out to the market for the terminal and airside portion of the project. In between, we've got an intermediate submission that's coming up quickly. So at the end of this month, in a week and a half, we're submitting our 50% CD. So that's kind of the final sort of official check-in. But as you can imagine, we're having close and regular communications and reviews and discussions with Mike and Chris and the rest of the Monterey team. So that is kind of a quick note on where we are. And I think what we really should do is just dive into the design. So Alan, do you want to take over from here?
Actually, I'll do that, Bart. And go ahead if you don't mind, Bart. Continue on running through the slides as we go through the description. Thank you. And I assume you can all hear me and see the screen?
Yes. Yes.
Great, thank you. So as Bart mentioned, we want to take you through kind of a journey of the exterior of the building, which you've seen in the past, and we'll also go inside the building today in more detail and talk about the process and the flow, and take you through all the way from entering through TSA into the main part of the building, onto the air side, and ultimately headed towards the gates and out towards the aircraft. Please do not hesitate to ask any questions along the way as we go through this. We're looking forward to your comments, and we both want to thank you very much for all of your comments over the last number of months, helping us through all this and working to turn this into what we believe is a beautiful project for the Monterey Peninsula. So what you're seeing right now in this first image is the kind of the entry point coming up to the main building. You are on the land side. You are a non-secure area. There's a courtyard area that's right in front of the main building where people could wait. The community can come to this space. You can see the building in this area, which is just a very nice scale. You're seeing it at a dusk view. So you're seeing into what we refer to as the lounge area, kind of the main gathering space as you go through security. And at this point, that lounge area allows you to see many of the gates from this point where you don't need to go to the gate immediately. You can stay here. You can work on your notebook or phone or grab some food or drink. So it really allows this visibility of inside out through the building and super easy wayfinding and understanding and calming through the overall project. This is the bird's eye view looking towards the main entry point from the or above the main parking area of the facility. You can see that central courtyard we were just looking at in the rendering at that point where people have parked their car or come up in a van or an Uber or taxi. You are parked right near the front entry of the building, and all pedestrians will then cross to that main central courtyard, and you will go to the right, which will take you in through ticketing and processing through TSA into the main building. On the left-hand side, the element on that side of the courtyard is where you're coming through baggage. You've arrived in the Monterey area, and you're coming out of that space once you've grabbed your bag, and you're going to be going to your car, being picked up, or rent a car. So this is kind of the overall layout of the building. You can see the aircraft beyond that towards the airfield. There are 5 attached gates, as you see in this overall aerial. We're looking just the other direction now to kind of give you a sense of the gates as it attached to the main building. You can see the one roof element that's lifted up just a bit that brings in daylight, a clear story all the way through the building. So there's an amazing amount of daylight that feeds almost every one of the rooms that you'll see when we get into the interiors here. You can see the main roadway for curbside drop-off, allowing plenty of space for cars to drop off and pick up, and also to bypass all that and move through, and then ultimately head out on their journey or park their car and go around. So this is a loop road that allows you to go back again if you've missed something or need to come back around to pick somebody up or drop somebody off. We're taking a view now from the air side, looking back towards those 5 gates, and you're seeing areas of access from multiple aircraft. And we'll get into some detail about some of the terrace areas that are on the far right-hand side of this image. You see a small kind of outdoor zone. We'll be showing that in a moment, looking out towards the airfield and out towards the Monterey Bay. And looking the other direction, you can see one of the gardens that's at the far east end, where people will be waiting to go onto the gate number 5. and you'll be able to look out onto this garden. So again, a very calming atmosphere throughout this project. Its scale, its materiality, its views, its daylight is very welcoming. It's open, it's daylit, all the things that we've all been working together on. I think the building has come together to really emphasize that throughout the project. So we're going to move into the interior of the building in more detail than you've seen in the past. So to start with, what you're looking at is the plan of the overall building, the main kind of rectangle, the center point where the red arrow is, and the kind of blue dot starting point. That's that central exterior outdoor courtyard we've been talking about. If you are a departing passenger going to go get onto your aircraft, it's indicated by the blue dashed line. So you'll come to that central point where the courtyard is outside. You'll go through the point where you enter. You can do ticketing if you need to get your ticket here or drop your bags. Right off the bat, you've got access to that. And then you start to process through TSA. So if you follow the dashed line as it starts to move up the page, you'll go through and you'll be queuing, and then you'll go through 3 different stations that are open to go through TSA to process through that point. And then you come into the middle part of the overall building, which is kind of the heart and soul of the project. And that is this wonderful lounge area where there's dining activity, able to get a drink, to stop and wait for your aircraft for a while. If it's going to be some time, you can meet with people. And then all the gates, the 5 gates from this point where you're seated, are visible. Many of the gates are visible. So most people will most likely be waiting in this larger lounge space, the kind of call to gate area that we refer to, and then be able to be going out to your gate. There are also seats along the edge of the face of all the gates areas. So if somebody's wanting to be closer to their gate, there's the ability to be close to the gate, but it's not what you would see typically in an airport where there's just dozens and dozens of seats right at the gate. It's really about this amazing hub where people can go into this lounge space and, again, enjoy some time, relax, and see all the way through to the aircraft from this point, and also look back out towards where the main entry point was with that courtyard. So you may be able to see friends that might be out there and waving, hello or goodbye from that point, which is a really special aspect of this project. Okay, let's go ahead to outbound. So we're just becoming on this view as you start to come on from the road. You're coming to either pick up or drop off at this point. You can see the main building. We talked a little bit about the clear story, the popped up roof that's on the main building, again, bringing daylight throughout the project. The curbside is very convenient. It's quite long to allow for people to drop off and pick up. The first element you see in the mass of the building is where you'll be going through departures, and that's the ticketing area. And if you're going to be picking somebody up at that curbside where the baggage is, it's at the far end of this overall rendering. And if you're coming from the parking lot or from vehicles that have dropped you off in vans or whatever, you're right at the center of the overall airport. So you come right into this courtyard area and can easily then go left or right if you're going to departures for ticketing, or if you're coming to meet somebody that's coming out of arrivals on the baggage side, you can be right there in the courtyard and be waiting for them. Looking at that corner where the departures is, again, this is the area where you are coming in through and processing through ticketing, dropping off your baggage, or going through to pick up in the line for the queue for TSA. Here's a view of the actual ticketing area. You've entered into the building. You can start to see this clear story element where the building starts to pop up in its volume. Daylight is coming through. You're seeing the kind of the brown hues of wood. The building, the vast majority of the building is actually mass timber. So we've got these long span wood glulam systems that you'll be able to see this very warm wood that's part of the overall project. We've shared some of those materials with you in the past. You'll be able to get your ticket right here, and then you'll also then drop your bags if needed. Otherwise, you can continue on and go through security checkout that you can see in the signage that's at the far end of this image. And processing through, this is just the beginnings. Processing through, you're looking back towards that ticketing area we were just looking at. And you can also see the courtyard beyond this. So again, great views, landscape, daylight, and very easy wayfinding. You are queuing up right here now as you're starting to go into TSA. So you can start to see this main zone. Off to the right-hand side, there are restrooms that are also near this area. But you've lined up now to start to do the process through the 3 TSA checkpoint zones. You are now in the TSA area. Again, at this point, you see the pop-up of the main roof structure, the wood, the warmth. You can see the daylight coming in, and you can clearly see as you start to process through here where you're going. And you can see right in front of you as you go through TSA where you can stop, put on your shoes, belt, whatever you might need to do after you recompose but you can also see right past this where the main lounge area is, where you're headed to kind of, again, wait before your aircraft takes off. We are now in the main lounge area. You can see the opportunity for multiple seating areas through here. It's a fairly high ceiling in here. We're looking at about 18 to 20 feet in the overall height of this area. Daylight, you can see on the far left, the large expanse of glass that is looking back out towards that main entry point. That is the overall courtyard. So again, there may be friends or relatives out there that they can still see you as you're processing through, and they can also see all the way from that point all the way through this point and out towards the aircraft. So it's an amazing connection to what's going on for wayfinding in daylight. On the far kind of bank you see over there where the light is showing up on the wall, that's the kind of drink area. There could be some food there, some bar area. So we've got concessions that'll be able to serve this whole area through here. You've now been called to your gate. So you're leaving the main lounge and you're walking down towards the gates, and you're standing right outside of that main lounge area. We just showed the image, and you're right at like gate 2 and going to head towards gate 3, 4, and then ultimately to gate 5. Here we are heading towards the far east end. You can see gate 4. All of the gates will be labeled like this, where they'll have a large number that's backlit like the 4. So again, very simple wayfinding. You'll be able to also see the sign that hangs down. So if you're further back, you'll be able to see that, oh, gate 5 is another one up, and be able to easily head towards your gate from this point. And then gate 5 is the last gate, and we've given some more seating area here. The other gates do have some small seating areas, but this one has a slightly larger seating zone because, again, it's the furthest away from that main lounge area. This will allow for people to sit and wait if they want to. You can also see the garden that's right through the glazed area here. You don't access this garden, but you can see this, again, kind of a calming feeling of the nature and the beauty of the surrounding Monterey area as you sit here and wait for your aircraft to board. We're going to go to the inbound. So you've now arrived on your airplane. You're taking your time to come off of the boarding area, and you're getting into the main entry. We're back at gate 5 again. We've come in. We're starting to head back down towards the main entry area that will allow you'll go right past that big lounge, and then you ultimately go into baggage claim. So you're very clear circulation. There's one direction here. Again, you can start to see the wood from the ceilings and the mass timber. Very simple, clean elements. Everything is really, I think, contemporary and really evokes the idea of the Monterey Peninsula of very elegant, beautiful pieces. And now you've come to the far end, and you're getting ready to go through baggage claim. You can see the double doors there. This is actually a system that once you get to those doors, they open up, and you go through about a 25-foot dimension where the door will close behind you. So security is making sure people aren't breaching any security through here. So it minimizes the amount of people that you have to have staffed here to deal with this. This is happening in more airports around the country, and you're able to go through this as the doors open and close to make sure you're safe and secure for the building inside and out. You've now gone through that secure point and you are in the baggage claim hall. Again, the ceiling is raised up, daylight coming from the clear story, the carousel that's here for baggage. We've got oversized baggage and main baggage claimed through here, and there's also the rental cars that are right in this area. And you're looking at the other end, you're still in the same baggage claim area, but you start to see the courtyard and the gardens from this point. What's behind us that's off screen is where the car rental areas will be, where you can actually get your car rental and go from here right out to your car. You're out again on the edge now. You've come through baggage claim, and you can see the curbside along this area, and you're back into that main plaza. And from this point, you can be picked up or go over to transit or go over to your parked car. We want to touch on connecting to nature and the kind of landscape that's on the overall plaza. Working with our landscape partners, we've really wanted to make sure that the landscape here represents the Monterey Bay Peninsula. So all the landscape you're seeing is from this area. These are live coastal oaks and other kinds of trees that are low maintenance, but really evoke the beauty of the overall peninsula. And so when you come into this courtyard area, you're seeing all this great landscape. It's helping to actually shade the building too, but giving you lots of places to sit along here while you're waiting to go into the building or waiting for a passenger coming out of the building. It's a place for the community to use. This is a shot of it at night, so you can see the dusk shot, which was similar to our starting image. This is an area the community can come to and actually use to embrace the space. We are now back inside the building at the very far west end of the building. There's an outdoor deck that I mentioned earlier. You can see through the glass. This is 10-foot tall glazing, so people are not able to get up or cause any possible harm or damage to anything, but you get these amazing views that look back out towards the aircraft coming in. You're seeing gate 1 at this point, and you can also see off to the left a glimpse of the Monterey Bay, and also you can see to the left some landscaping where that gentleman is sitting. We'd have landscaping through here too to make, again, a very calming element for people to come out to get some air before they go on to their flight. And this is the opposite end, the far east. Although you cannot go out into this garden, it gives the same kind of atmosphere of views of landscape, the community area for what you would see in landscape throughout the Monterey Peninsula, and some glimpses out towards the airfield. I'm going to show you at nighttime, kind of the expression of the building, how it glows. Again, I think the beauty of the building is this balance between warm wood, the mass timber, the glazing, which is very welcoming. So when you pull up to the building, it's a lantern, basically, that it really allows you to see through. It's inviting, very welcoming. So it's a building that really sits into nature with that central courtyard, but is a really beautiful building from all the things that you've been helping with us along the way to design the building. The central access point, again, at night, you can see there'll be lighting on some of the trees as you come to the plaza. Very safe, very welcoming, and calming as you come to the project. Again, we've seen this image before, but just sitting at that main plaza area out in the front, there'll be seating that'll be lit at the base, as you can see. There's lighting, so it's safe, but also something that's not too bright, something that really shows the inside and out of the overall building. We're going to touch on some of the materials for the interiors. The materials are really inspired by the Monterey terrain, the colors of the water and the hillsides, the wood, the shorelines, all the different kinds of colors and vegetation and textures that you see throughout the Monterey Peninsula. We wanted to incorporate into the colors and textures of the actual interior finish elements. So the plan, again, you're seeing here in kind of general zones. We look at this as we start to go through the building that define what the space might start to feel like through different elements and colors. So the inland hills is open and area. That's where you're going through ticketing and going through TSA. As you come into the middle, where the main waiting area is for the lounge area, it's dynamic. It's calming. It's much quieter and overall kind of sense. We talked about the height of the roof. It's an element that is a place that you can kind of gather your thoughts, spend time working on your laptop or having a meal at this point. As you move up into the coastline coves, it's more dynamic and energizing because that's where you're moving back and forth to get to your gates. Again, there are some areas for seating along each of the gates, small amounts. And then there's more as you go down to gate 5, which is actually off screen in this, where you have more seating down there. And you can see sprinkled in there the restrooms for people to use as they're going back and forth between the gates for easy convenience. And then also concessions that are flanking and serving the main central lounge area. The Oh, sorry, Bart. Sorry, I was just going to hit on the baggage area, referred to the inland hills that is open in area. So again, it's all these elements start to set the stage for the materials of the project. Looking at the overall finish plan, where the terrazzo would be on the flooring, the overall field, the areas where carpet would exist, accent carpets, and the overall floor tile throughout the project in this color rendition. The total seat count, as you can see, is 308. The central lounge area we've been talking to has the vast majority of seating at 246. And then the other concourse, as it spreads out, has the remaining 62. We're looking at ticketing and baggage and the inland hills inspiration for the colors of the tile. You can see the wood, the warm woods that are part of this, the terrazzo and the different tones. As you see in items number 6 and 7, terrazzo is a very durable material that most airports throughout the country use. It lasts for decades with very little maintenance. I know there's been questions about how is that for slippage. It's actually it'll be treated in a way that actually will eliminate any kind, if you spill something on it, the slippage is going to be at absolute minimal. So we're going to be very careful about the material itself as people are walking back and forth, that it's something that's durable, beautiful, but also very safe. On number 4, you see the tiles, the inspiration from the Monterey colors and the craftsmanship of I think, many buildings that you see throughout Monterey, and the craftsmanship, the wood for number 1, and then the stainless steel and the stone. Some of those materials being shown in this view, we've seen, again, this is the ticketing area. You can see the tile backdrop on the far left of the image as you're ticketing. Think of the accents that you can see the wood, the terrazzo on the floor, very simple elements, and overall palette. We believe it's a really beautiful, simple way of not overdoing it. It's timeless and should be very, very durable. Looking at the main baggage hall as you come in, again, minimal amount of materials. The terrazzo you can see on the floor, the ceilings with the wood, and then some accents, oversized baggage area. You get some color accents that come into the building. You can see the car rental signage where you'll be headed if you're going to be renting a car. But very minimal, really elegant, simple use of materials and colors in the project. And then the central gate lounge, referred to as the coastal redwoods. You start to see some of the materials and the colors here. You can start to see it in this rendering overall. We're a lot of wood. There'll be terrazzo, there'll be some carpet for accents along this area, different seating areas, a little bit of landscape. We've gone to a slightly darker wood here. You can see the ceilings, which are really Douglas fir, and the overall mass timber. And then when you drop down to the wood elements that'll be part of the bar, we're going to a darker wood just to help accent those areas and have a nice contrast between the lighter wood and the slightly darker wood. And then the concourse, using the idea about coastline coves and the beautiful colors of the bay. Start to see, again, we're back now at gate 5, looking back down towards all the way through gate 1, the seating area, the carpet, the terrazzo, very simple palette overall.
That takes us to the end. So we didn't hear any questions, but I'm sure there are some. So I can flip back to any slide and if you have any questions or comments, we'd love to hear them.
Okay, I'll open it up to the public on Zoom. Any questions or comments?
See no hands, Madam Chair.
All right. To the audience here, any questions or comments?
Just one question. My name is Uwe Gorbecker again. You talk a lot about wood, and I love wood, don't get me wrong, but with the salty air we have here in Monterey and being as close as we are to the coastal line, how do you protect that from erosion? Thank you.
Oh, I think I heard the question right, was about how it's,
So
wood being.
that's a public comment and you do not answer. That's just a comment that will go to
Thank you,
staff.
thank you, thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'll open it up to the board. Carol, can I start with you?
Oh, fell off.
Uh, as far as the arrivals and departures, I can see that there are more lanes, it looks like. Has there been space allocated to the oversized vehicles like the buses, limousines, that kind of vehicle? Because now, something I'd read in notes that it's hard accessing the front of the terminal now when you have those vehicles there with the regular public dropping off and picking up.
Yeah, we've got a I was trying to see if we had a different view that showed the various lanes, but I think this one does. You can see the terminal, and then there are 4 lanes, and then there is sort of an island in between. So the 4 lanes are really for passenger vehicles, and then we separate those from buses and shuttles, and TNC taxis. So that island is intended to provide kind of parking space, or waiting area, loading zones for the buses, the shuttles, and the TNCs. So they have kind of a dedicated drop off, but also lane and bypass lane. And then closest to the terminal is where the public would drive. So that was the intent, to both separate those streams and keep those different sized vehicles separated.
And another question, there is in baggage claim, you were saying a separate area for the oversized baggage. So for the golf clubs and skis and stuff that come in there is a separate area, so it's not getting hung up on a carousel.
That's correct.
Yeah, I think this view shows it best. So our carousel is kind of a regular conveyor width, but it can accommodate golf bags. But for larger items, you can see the cove, or sort of the recess behind. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but you can see oversized baggage, and that's a separate belt, which is wider, and doesn't have sort of the turns that the carousel feed has, and that's where oversized bags or items would come up. Separately, for instance, for animals that are transported, there's also an elevator that can take items up from the apron level to the backclaim area. But yes, there are two separate belts, one for regular baggage and one for oversized.
Okay. Carl?
Thank you. Beautiful drawing, beautiful renderings. As you're going through, the thing that struck me is, where are all the seats? My question was going to be, how many seats they're going to be, and you answered that, over 300. But they're really not depicted in the drawings. I mean, I saw some very nice furniture that would look nice in my living room, but no row seating. You said there's 200 seats in the lounge. I'm counting 40 maybe.
The seats that are shown in this image do represent the actual count. As far as the types of seating, so your typical gang seating, those are the rows of seating on on a bar, back to back, perhaps. We do have some of those, but not as many as you typically see. So we've tried to provide really a variety of seating while maintaining the count. So there's actually a lot of lounge type seating in this space compared to maybe other airports. And then you can see, for instance, along the facade that's facing the courtyard, there are tables. And then, of course, the banquettes, and maybe I'll show that picture that Alan was referring to, that has the darker wood, be a walnut laminate. Behind this element, there are also seats. So it's kind of a bench seat, and then there's a table, and then there's seats on the other side. So the images do reflect the actual count.
Okay.
In the types, there's room for refinement of exactly what the right mix of that furniture is.
Okay. Thank you. The observation deck, what size is that?
Believe, Bart, we're at around 20 feet by 20 feet, give or take.
Something like that. Yeah, we one of the developments that happened since we saw you last was this did get a little smaller, but it came sort of at the benefit of additional restrooms. So we worked really hard with Mike and Chris and others to really get the right number of restrooms. And if I quickly jump back to the plan, you can see there are sort of like two banks of restrooms. One up here, which is on the air side, and then one down here, which is for the baggage claim. And we increased just the number of fixtures in those, which did squeeze the deck a little bit, but we still believe that 20 by 20, give or take, is really a good size for people to use. It can still accommodate furniture to be put out there and people to enjoy it.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
John?
Yeah, I want to thank you for the presentation, and I share, I think, probably the general sentiment. I'm liking the way this is starting to gel. It's beautiful. I guess the biggest thing for me is the covering in the landscape is right now rendered green, and it looks like grass. Is that the plan? Okay, yeah, that's maybe it was an obvious question to an obvious no, but yeah, okay.
Oh, sorry, was there a response in the room?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Lapierre answered.
Okay, that was it. That was my only observation.
Adina.
Thank you, Chair. Great presentation, Art and Ellen. It's coming along really wonderfully well. A few questions. Have we addressed, I know this is the terminal, but we've also got the parking lanes out there. Have we addressed the multimodal transportation connection here in the design?
So we do have a place for the bus parking that is serving the airport. So here in the rendering, we kind of just show these vans. In reality, we've got sort of a bus parking that would come with a shelter at the end of this island. Then we've got some shuttles, and then the intent for now is to kind of reserve the sort of the start, I should say, of the island, and a little bit after the crosswalk for TNC taxi.
Okay.
So I think the bus connection is what you're referring to with the multimodal.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good. Next question on food service. The sort of dining and drinks area, I just want to be clear, there is no full service kitchen being designed into the terminal?
It's not a full restaurant, but there is a dedicated food prep area. So we talked about before, I'll kind of point to it. There's this space that is now directly adjacent to the bar, which is kind of a back of house where there could be a deep fryer, some cooking equipment. So there's room for preparing and serving.
Hmm.
More than packaged food. It's not going to be a full restaurant, but it's going to provide a variety of food options for the concessionaire.
So more than grab and go, less than a full service restaurant.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Can you comment on where we are with lead design?
Yeah,
and lead
we
certification?
we have been targeting LEED Platinum, and we are still on track to do that. We are currently kind of achieving the points. We're constantly checking where we are with credits like daylight, water use, things like that. So we haven't submitted the credits to GBCI yet. That's going to happen after we complete the design. But we continue to track above the minimum required number of points for LEED Platinum. We are not sort of excessively above it, so it is something we continue to track really carefully. But LEED Platinum was the goal and is still the target.
Great. Thanks, Bart. And my last question is regarding construction costs. So as we design this and we talk about the different materials, how are we doing in terms of keeping an eye on the construction budget and trying to stay within that in terms of everything we're talking about, from design to specifications to material choice?
Yeah, I was waiting just to make sure Mike or Chris didn't want to.
All you, Bart, all you.
Yeah, so we are at every time we issue and in between, we are looking at what the cost is. We are currently, for the terminal and the air side, a little bit over the, let's say, 85 million that we had targeted early on. As you know, the land side improvements are kind of under not a separate contract for us, but there is construction manager at risk, auto construction, that's engaged now. So that budget is being developed, and we're going through value engineering ideas to kind of make sure that we get the most value for the money. But for the terminal and the airfield updates, we are just a little bit over what we had targeted, which was the 85 million.
We're pretty comfortable with the number right now.
Okay.
We think that there's still some room to bring it down. You know, we're 50% through construction drawing, so there's still some opportunity to play a little bit.
Yep.
A couple of the things that have changed that maybe Bart and Alan didn't quite hit on as much as I might have liked is we now have designed for and have approved from TSA 3 security check lanes,
Great.
which that's a huge difference for us.
Great.
So we'll have dedicated TSA pre. Unfortunately, in the state of California, you can't have any more clear, but we'll have TSA pre and 2 dedicated lines for general public. Art kind of hit on it a little bit, or Alan did, I think. We've taken a good hard look at the restrooms, and we can make a big mistake that is not easy to fix if we don't build restrooms that are sized appropriately.
Mhm.
So we've expanded the restroom some to future-proof the building, if you will. We spent a lot of time on little things like bollards around the foundations for the jet bridges, how those would look and what we could do to save some money there. We're also looking closely at repurposing the short-term lot by this building where you all parked this morning into the ready return lot for the new building. So car rentals would be ready to return over in this lot rather than building new. So we're looking at things like that that really potentially open up some different funding sources, but also help hold the cost down a little bit. So I think we're making good progress. We've at least turned the tide a little.
Fantastic. Yeah. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bart.
And-
Thank you, Alan. Sure.
Sorry, maybe if I could quickly add to that, we also had discussions with the rental car agencies. We've increased kind of their space, their leasable area, to provide officers for each of the outfits that are at the airport. So that was something that we didn't have before. So as we kind of push the building out a little bit, of course, it grew some. And then on the apron level and discussions with the airlines and with TSA and police and figuring out how fit the break room, we added square footage to the apron level as well for enclosed spaces, but it's all, of course, to support the operations. So it's not just that things got more expensive. We kind of developed the needs for this terminal and added where necessary.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good news on TSA third lane.
Mm.
Because I was looking at that, I'm like, if it can get crazy.
Yep.
A couple of things I saw on social media that Rana is our contractor, I guess, for all of our landscaping and providing local grasses and trees. Did they come through you, HOK?
Rana is our landscape design architect partner. So they're not a contractor, but they're part of the design team. So we've worked with, and we're still working with them to make that selection of local species, and some of the areas that you mentioned that looked like a lawn. That's actually a mix of native plants that will hopefully thrive. I mean, that's the intent, of course, without too much maintenance. So yeah, they're the design consultant that are part of our team.
Good. I mean, they're world famous and they're right here. So that's great. I see lots of room for art. I like that.
Haven't gotten there, but there's
We
plenty of
got
wall
we
space.
got wall space. I like that. So that makes me happy. Dog walking, the dog potty place we have to provide. Where's that? Is it outside on that deck or where is it?
Pet relief area.
Yeah, we've got a pet relief area on the land side. It's adjacent to. It doesn't really show here, but the intent is this is bicycle parking, and that we provide in this area here a pet relief. But it is
What
on the-
happens if they go through and the Legion is 7 hours late or something and they're on the secure side?
Yeah, at this point, they would have to come back out and let that dog out and then go back through.
That might be something we want to look at. This is a very, very, very dog friendly community, like extremely. And we have a lot of people who travel with their pets. So I'm maybe out on that little deck area or something, but I think we need to have something on the secure side. I don't think the answer is they have to go back out and then come back through.
Yeah, we'll look at that. Thank you.
And thank you for listening about the restrooms, because I know when we talked about it last time and I was like, there's no way. So thank you. I think that's planning for not just the future, but also for now. Mike, I didn't see in those drawings, like the kiosk, you know, where you go and you check in and get your bag tag and everything. Is it just because they draw beauty and we draw function?
Yeah, a little bit of that, yeah. We did talk about that in the kiosks. Bart and Alan jump in. They'll be along the column line.
Okay,
So there are places for kiosks there. We've also talked about perhaps kiosk or two in the courtyard for outdoor purposes.
so when they come, they could do it?
Yeah, don't know that we'll get there, but the intended use is by the column line.
And then I know when we went up and looked at Payne Field, they had the, I guess what you call interchangeable check-ins so that,
Yep.
you know, you're Alaska to this hour and then next hour it might be United or whatever.
Yeah.
Is that how those will be, or will they be fixed?
We intend on making them what you're referring to is called common use.
Okay,
So, yeah, we intend on making the building common use, the gates, the ticket counters, everything would be used as needed by the airline partners, not dedicated to them. So, it's a much more efficient way to make a smaller building work well. And the layout is just, particularly when you've got to call the gate area, just cries for common use. So I think it's a good building to make that common use leap.
good.
There are technological things that we'll work out with our architects about what type of common use, but that would be on our ownership, on the airport's ownership. So there are issues we need to address there, and we're in the process of doing that. But the intent is to go full common use.
Good, good. Because I think when you took us up there and we looked at that, we were all thinking that was the way to go since we're fairly small and people. But that's where people tend to spill their coffee and drop their fries and ketchup and
Yeah, we've had a lot of discussion about flooring. And maybe Bart and Alan, you guys are the experts. Can you walk through the discussions that we've had on flooring and why we have what we have today?
I'm okay with the terrazzo. I bought into that. But I just
Yeah.
know how messy people are.
Yeah, and you're not incorrect. They are. I mean, they will spill where they sit. Guys, help me out here. The reasoning for the carpeting is really acoustical and softening some of the elements. Is that correct?
Yeah, Alan, you want to?
Go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, that's correct. But we did hear obviously the comments about spilling food. So if you can kind of see this sort of curved shape, and maybe should not point at my own screen, but this curved shape, it kind of serves two purposes. One is we've got this paver out here, and we really want to emphasize that inside out. So it's not exactly the same. It's not going to be a paver. It's going to be a tile inside, but we want to bring that material in just to strengthen that inside out connection. But at the same time, it provides that hard flooring kind of where the food service is, where sort of the types of seating are, where people can sit. And then around it here, we've got some we've got carpeted areas. And then at the end here, we've got carpeted area. Now, it does help with acoustics. It helps with softening. Sometimes for kids, it's nice because they want to be on the floor. But to avoid sort of the spills to kind of cause major maintenance headaches, it's all carpet tile. So they're individual kind of squares of carpet that you put together. So if there was really a spill that or a stain you couldn't get out, it's a matter of replacing one carpet tile, which somebody could do in 10 minutes or less. So the carpet tile is a way to both provide that kind of softness, acoustic benefit, and help with the maintenance. And
So
again,
so we are very familiar with carpet tiles. We
Yep.
have them. And I can see out in our walkways where we've had heavy usage, I can see where they're replaced. And and sometimes the corners fray, which people then trip on and they pull their bags across. So I'm still not convinced that that carpeting should be in that area. I mean, I travel quite a bit, and every place I see people knock things over, and you see where they sit and they leave stains. And it's also on us in perpetuity of how many people we have to have that are constantly cleaning and putting areas off limits because things have been spilled and it's a mess. So I'll just ask you to continue to work with the staff on it, because we also may be just buying a problem for our staff down the road, and I don't want to do that.
I also think we had a problem that they stopped making the carpet.
Yeah, that happened too. The carpets, they stopped making that pattern or that fabric, and then you've got to try to find something else. So it's not as, you guys, you're into beauty. I get it. We're into function. So we're just trying to work through it.
These are discussions that are ongoing, and they're ones that you're correct, we need to continue to have, because we haven't found the sweet spot yet that will satisfy all of the beasts. So we'll continue to work with the architects. on that.
Okay. And then the furniture, how do we select the furniture?
We haven't done that yet. We have recommendations from the architects, but that'll be the next thing that you see when we finally work our way down to the furniture. We do have recommendations. I think there's probably a field trip in our future to look at those. And then bring back our recommendations to you guys about the kind of furniture. The intent as we move forward in that area is a lot like Painfield, where you have that gathering area, or that they call the gate area, where it's more like a hotel lobby.
We don't have a fireplace.
Yeah, we don't.
Can we get one?
But then your lead certification goes out the window.
Oh, yeah.
But-
Get the tin foil with them.
Yeah, we don't have the fireplace, but the idea is more of a hotel lobby to make it a comfortable area to sit in. So it's gonna be more than just gang seating. I mean, you certainly could make the building seat more if you used a different type of furnishing, but that's not the intent here.
I'm going on record. I am. We cannot have those bamboo kidney shaped things that all of these airports are putting in. I just see like a family of 6, they just sit down, the kids lay down all over them. No one else can sit there. I mean, I'm watching it in every airport and I'm like,
Yeah.
good for the furniture people that they sold them, but those things are not good for anybody that's busy.
Yeah. Finding the right furniture that will be useful is really a challenge. Gang furniture, you watch people in gate areas, every other seat is taken. There's always a seat between someone, because we're just not comfortable sitting right next to each other. We do enough on the airplane. So finding seats that are functional, provide a good level of seating in the areas defined, and will be usable. And you can put pretty seats out there that people will never sit on, and that's what you're referring to. So it's really kind of a fine art to figure out exactly how to make this work. Like I say, we've got some recommendations that the team here is looking at from the architects, and then we'll start moving in that direction pretty quickly.
When I was in, I think it was Montana last month, they had the cup holders with the seats. And that just seemed to make so much sense to me. So people aren't putting them on the ground and then kicking them over. And it actually feels kind of cleaner and better just to have your cup there as opposed to down on the floor. And I think it would help to eliminate spills. So, and then obviously the electrical piece of that the seats will be wired so that we can have
Lots of charging opportunities.
lots
Yeah,
of charging.
you got it.
So, and I understand that's a lot more expensive to put all that in, but it's what people demand now.
Yeah.
So, well, gentlemen, thank you. I think we're moving forward in the right direction, and look forward to seeing the finished product. What are we talking about? October?
For the design, we're delivering final CDs middle of November. The actual final product would be the build terminal. That's gonna obviously take a couple years more.
But the construction drawings that would then be ready to go out to bid that we will actually vote on, those are slated now for November?
Yes.
Mid-November.
Receive them mid-November, at staff level, and then we'll bring those back at that point as we go out. So, we're getting close. We're getting to the point where, we're starting to think about contractors and starting to think about how you put together a bid package and the process that we'll use. So it's moving not rapidly, but it's moving quickly.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And we'll see you in November.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
We're going to take a 5-minute break. Some of us went, but I think the rest,
Yeah,
everyone
none of us
else.
need you.
All right, it is 9:18. We are back in session. Thank you. Our second item is to receive a report on the firm's selection process for investment banking and underwriting services and introduction of Adam Aranda with Barclays Capital, Inc. Who's taking this?
I am.
Mark?
Morning, board.
Morning.
So this is a kind of an update on the process that we've been going through of building our finance team for the new replacement terminal and all the related costs. PFM, as we all know, continues as our municipal advisor, and they're kind of looking after our best interests as we go into our financing. Bellage Spar, we brought on to the team as our bond and disclosure counsel, and Unison is on board as our airport consultant, and they'll be issuing the airport feasibility report. All of those processes are underway. The next step was to bring on underwriting services. And so last month, we put out an RFP to 15 various investment bankers. We received a response from 9 of them, 8 of which were responsive for underwriting, one of which proposed only to do a direct placement. So I kind of viewed that as kind of non-responsive. Staff reviewed all the responses, and based on that, we kind of developed a short list between Barclays and Piper Sandler. We had interviews with both Piper Sandler and Barclays, and follow-up conversations with them. And based on the Barclays, kind of a couple of things on Barclays which really stood out. They had the only response to the RFP that was kind of specific as to potential structures with TIFIA. So that was kind of something in their favor. They have extensive experience with TIFIA. They have extensive experience with airports. By reputation, they are probably the largest and most prestigious of all the respondents. They're an international bank, which is considered a bulge bracket bank, which is kind of the premier group for underwriting. And also they have, I think probably the most financial strength in terms of their balance sheet. And so all those things combined, we also, before we made our final decision, we caucused with both our bound counsel and PFM and kind of discussed kind of the pluses and minuses for both Piper Sandler and Barclays. And I think we all were of a mind that Barclays was kind of a clear choice. And so Barclays is now on the team, and they're kind of an integral part of what we're going to do going forward. And so with that, also just for my own, just so I want to share, and Adam probably won't like this, but I did, in checking my references, one of the persons I did talk to was the CFO of the San Francisco airport, who has worked with Adam and his team over the years, and her response was, well, on a 5-star rating, I'd give him a 6. And that we're very, very fortunate to have him because of his experience and his kind of solution-oriented approach to getting airport financings done. So, so we've had good confirmation as to his team and all the successes. So with that, I'd like to have Adam just kind of give an intro, maybe some members of his team, and then address any comments the board might have.
Well, certainly appreciate those comments. Good morning, Chair, Directors. I'm Adam Aranda with Barclays. I'm a director out of San Francisco. I know a few of my team members are here, so I just want to briefly introduce them as well. Kathy Lee is a director out of New York. She is the co-lead banker and will be working very closely with me. I think we'll collaborate, bringing the best solutions we can to the district. Hamad Imran is a vice president from New York. He'll be an integral part of the team in terms of his experience and expertise in airport finance, as well as on the execution analytics side, as well as Harrison Kadish, who's an analyst out of San Francisco, works with me in my office and will also be working on the analytics. And just wanted to say, certainly appreciate the opportunity. This is in many ways why we do this work, to work closely with our issuer clients to, find a financing solution that makes the most sense. Put together a financing structure that is acceptable to the market, that gets you the lowest possible cost. So we're happy to be on board and working with you all as you pursue this really important project. But happy to answer any questions.
Open it up, John.
No, we had an extensive conversation in finance. So.
Carl?
No, I don't have any.
Yeah.
No questions.
So we're pretty easy today.
Sounds great.
We'll probably have a lot more when you come back with the meat of the deal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Definitely. Mhm.
So welcome aboard and thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I'll echo Mark's comments. Was head and shoulders above any of the competition, particularly when it gets to some of the nuances that I'm sure you talked about in Finance Committee about how we issue bonds or how we issue debt and what our limitations are. Barclays and Adam in particular are the superstars in that area that will help us through. They've got the most experience in doing what we're going to need to do to go to market. So we're pleased that they're on board.
And excuse me, I did not open it up to the public for any comments or questions. I'll do that at this time.
And Madam Chair, I see no hands.
All right, no hands raised, and there's no one in the audience. Everyone has left. So anyway, so thank you, and we'll look forward to you working very hard with our staff to get the best deal possible.
Same here. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next is an update to the noise information related to overflight presented by Monterey Fly Safe Coalition. And if what I'd like to do is maybe just go to item 4 while Mr. Pick is out of the room so that he could hear that presentation, since he's the other half of the committee, if that would be acceptable to my fellow board members.
It's fine by me, yes.
All right. So let's go to item number 4, which is a resolution 1885, resolution approving the bid for runway 28 left, 10 right improvement project and authorizing execution of a contract with Granite Rock Company. Who's on?
Dan, Dan is going to take this one for us. So.
Is that on? Yeah. All right. Good morning, Board.
members,
We need to get an extension on there
Yeah.
for you, Dan.
How about if I hold it? Is that a little better? There you go.
Either that or kneel down.
1885, which is the contract for Granite Rock to do what we're calling the runway 10 right, 28 left runway treatment. It consists of 2 phases of repairing some of the pavement that's deteriorating primarily in the landing zones on either ends of the runway where it's most impactful for aircraft operations, and then a seal coat which will encapsulate the pavement and extend the life of the pavements going forward. The contract bid, or the bid that Granite Rock offered, was in the amount of $2,506,000, and based on our engineer Tartaglia, that was within estimates, and they are responsive and responsible bidders as they are doing multiple work here on the project at the airport with the commercial apron, as well as in previous projects that we've had with them. So we recommend that the board approves this contract so that we can do this much needed work to preserve our runway going forward.
Good. I'll open it up for public comment on Zoom.
No hands, ma'am.
No hands raised. I'll open it up to the board. Mr. Pick,
Nothing. Thank you.
John?
Just one point, and that was this, we talked about this extensively in finance, but for the pilots, what's the timing, like doing the work, kind of like the window, and Chris went through it pretty extensively for my comfort.
So naturally, given the sensitivity of the runway, this would be done after hours, after the commercial flights. So we've scheduled it for a 12 to 5 window.
Yeah.
And so given that short window, to reduce impacts on the tenants as much as possible.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a critical part of our
Exactly.
line of work, but it's also trying to figure out where we can fit it in so it doesn't cause as many impacts as possible.
Okay, I appreciate that. I just wanted to have it on the record in the board meeting. Thank you.
Yeah, we are very cognizant of that. And
Yeah,
trying
yeah.
to manage that.
Okay.
Carl?
Thank you. How long will it take to complete the project, do you estimate?
So it's done in 2 phases. The first phase is scheduled for 25 days, and that is the repair work, which is the taking out the pavement that's deteriorating and paving. And then the second phase is the seal coat, striping, and the markings, and that would take 35 days. So in total, 60 days worth of work, but it will be done in, as I said, in phases. So total time over the course of the next year.
Are there any plans to reach out to the residents in Kona primarily? When we've had these projects that occur late at night, as you know, we tend to get complaints. And one of the things that seemed to bother them the most, because sounds do travel, but when these trucks back up and they all have to have that mandatory beep, 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 but just like a siren through the night going right over there.
Yeah, we're going to address that with the neighborhoods as we've done in the past. They'll know that it's there. We'll do the best we can to mitigate.
Just avoid backing up if ever possible.
Just full
Yeah.
driver.
Yeah, there's plenty of room. You don't need to back up.
Yeah.
Just, one other quick question. When was the last time we had this done?
2010.
So we did the runway overlay, which was the last work on the runway. That was an ARA grant in 2009.
Okay.
2009.
Is when we started that as part of the back to recovery.
About 15 years then. Okay.
Chris?
I was just gonna say, Director Miller, you don't have your microphone on.
Oh,
Okay.
Thank you.
This process will extend the life of the runway 5 to 7 years. Is that-
Minimum, they've used it extensively, the seal coat in much harsher conditions in the high plains and like Colorado and North Dakota, and one airport in particular said that they're going on year number 7 and have seen no serious degradation to the pavement, and it's a much cheaper alternative than doing a full overlay and less intrusive.
And they have a lot crazier weather than we do, so.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Good.
You know, it's forestalling the inevitable. At some point, you're gonna have to reconstruct the runway, which is a one runway airport. You've got two, but one that functions for everyone. Is gonna be a challenge going forward. Somebody else will deal with that.
For all of us, I think.
Right.
That's the.
Do a good job, so we don't.
Yeah.
All right. I think I'd ask for a motion.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, sure. I'm sorry.
So the timing. And I can tell you that the beep, 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 I realize with the buses, and we do away with the beep, beep, beep. I'm like, it's against the law. You can't. And Ed Magner used to say, buses only go forward. They don't back up at the track. What kind of noise is there going to be? I mean, I think if you drop a pin out there at night, they're going to complain. How far? Well, they say you can hear it probably in Santa Cruz, I'm sure too, but what kind of noise level will there be with the work?
So unfortunately, there will be some backing up as with the trucks, with the paving. It's just the nature of the operation. And then when they're compacting, there's the rollers, so you get that vibration. But considering it's a very small area and they're on the ends of the runway, that especially like for Kona, it will be a very limited time frame.
And when they're doing the seal coat, that will be a non-issue basically,
Yeah.
because that's a totally different operation, doesn't require what the paving components.
So it'd be basically the first 25 days?
And not even the full 25 days, because the 25 days consists of both ends of the runways. So I don't know off the top of my head what, if you want to say 12 days to just cut it in half. We're talking maybe 2 weeks at the most.
When we always say when people wait, if they waited 1 minute, they were there 5. If they were 5 minutes, they were there half an hour. And if they were there 10 minutes, they were there for 3 hours. So even if it's 1 day, they're going to say it was at least a month that they were subjected to it. So.
And we're looking at other ways to, I say, efficientize their work. So there's things that can be done as enabling so that when they're out there from 12 to 5, it's the most efficient use of time, because we understand the short windows that we have to offer them. So we're always looking at ways to make them the most efficient and get them in and get them out.
Thank you.
All right. I'd entertain a motion on resolution 1885.
So
Well
moved.
First,
I'll second it.
first and a second. Roll call, please.
Director Chabajian,
Aye.
Director Gagliardi,
Aye.
Director Pick,
Aye.
Director Miller,
Yeah.
Chair Leffel.
Yes, thank you. All right, thank you, Daniel. Now we're going to go back to item number 3. We've moved it so that you would be able to hear the presentation.
Thank you.
Director Pick. And it's an update on the noise information related to overflight presented by the Monterey Fly Safe Coalition. And I'm so sorry that none of them came here today to hear this, since it is their issue. It's an issue for all of us, but it is their burning issue.
Well, that's okay, Madam Chair, because these are recorded and put on Zoom. They can catch the replay.
Excellent.
So I appreciate the invitation by the board to go over some of the information that was given to us at the last board meeting, as well as at the last committee meeting. And so let me deal with these in order of when we received them. At the last board meeting, we received 3 screenshots or screen grabs of planes that were overflying New Monterey. So we have analyzed those instances at the request of the board, and we'd like to provide a response as to what was going on. So as you'll recall, can you get rid of this little thing on the bottom there? I don't know if we can or not, but.
And is it sharing?
It is screen share. That is my screen right there. But anyway, that's okay. It'll be all right because most of the stuff is above that. So the Monterey 5 departure is what is called a standard instrument departure. Jets that are flying above 18,000 feet and all commercial aircraft are required by FAA regulations to fly IFR, instrument flight rules. What that means is there is a pathway in the sky, like highways in the sky. The difference between highways on the ground and highways in the sky is that you have multiple layers, different flight levels, right? So you can have one plane flying the same pathway as another as long as they're separated by 2,000 feet or more. Okay, and that's important to. Now, every airport has departure procedures that are in place for how planes fly out. They're called standard instrument departures. There are 3 authorized deviations to the standard instrument departures, and these are not made on the fly. These are made in communication between either the tower and the airplane and the pilots of the plane, or air traffic control if you're not at an airport. If you want to deviate from the path you have been given or deviate from the altitude you have been given, you must get permission to do that before you can deviate. But there are 3 authorized deviations or modifications on a departure procedure. One is related to safety, like if there's an obstacle off of the departure into the runway, like let's say there was like a crane of some sort building a building in Monterey. Well, that would be a reason why they would want to keep planes out of the area, right? You don't want, planes getting anywhere near a crane or something like that. That's not really the most common here. The 2 most common are the other 2, traffic and weather. Those are the big ones. And so I just want to remind people, these are not a violation of a regulation. These are not some rogue pilot who wants to just fly wherever they want. These must be authorized by air traffic control, or in this instance, by the tower, because they'll be, and this is going to be important in what we're going to talk about here in just a minute. So this is one of the one of the screen grabs or pieces of paper that was given to us of a plane that did not follow the Monterey 5 departure. And the allegation was they're just ignoring the departure procedure. Well, so I went and I did some digging.
And possibly taking a joyride for the view.
Exactly. I will tell you, under no circumstances is there a joyride for the view happening with these planes. They're just not. But let me explain. There's a couple of key things here. Now, again, I had to do a little bit of sleuthing to figure out what is that plane, what day was it, what time was it. There are some important clues that are on this page. For example, and I'm going to move to the next one. In looking at the information, you can see in sort of the bottom, about the middle, about the third of the way up on the left-hand side, it says SKW 3298. That's SkyWest 3298 or American Airlines 3298. That's the flight. Just below the picture of the airplane, about 2 lines below, it shows you, or I'm sorry, 3 lines below, it shows you the tail number of the plane. So I know the flight, I know the tail number, and then in the upper left-hand corner, you can see the time. So using that information, I was able to go back, and by the way, I'm going to go through this fully for the first one, so you can figure out how I dialed in to make sure that's the flight we're talking about. I did this for the other ones, but I didn't include all of it in the PowerPoint just for brevity. Mm-hmm. So in looking at the tail number, you can see it's hard to see here, but you see the yellow highlights. That the tail number of that specific plane flew the Monterey to Phoenix flight on those days that are highlighted. The other days it was a different aircraft, right? Similar model of aircraft, but a different tail number. Okay, so now knowing that, and then looking at the time, you can sort of drill in and figure out which flight it is. And this is, well, actually these are out of order. This is the flight right here, SkyWest 3298. You can see down on the lower left-hand side, it's on June 1st of 2024. The time is right and the other aircraft is right and the pattern is right. And the tail number is right, okay? Here's a plane that took off right before SkyWest or Alaska, operated by SkyWest, but Alaska flight 3474 from Monterey to San Diego took off right before. Now, as the pilots in the room know, with jets flying to other airports, they have what's called flow control. It used to be back in the day that planes would just take off, and if you got to the airport where your destination was, if there were too many airplanes trying to land all at once, they would just have you circle in the air until you could land. They have decided that's a waste of resources. It's burning fuel, it's polluting the air unnecessarily, right? And it's causing, so what they do is they will have airplanes sit on the ground at their origin airport, and they will give them a window of time to take off because they know how fast that plane is going to fly.
Mhm.
And so they may have a plane wait 10 or 15 minutes on the ground rather than circle for 10 or 15 minutes in the air. It's far better to do that. So you'll hear, if you listen to the air traffic control, to the ATC or to the weather and the information, the ATIS. That's what ATIS was the word I was looking for. If you listen to the ATIS, you will hear almost always traffic control is in place for all jets too, and it will list the airports. For example, last night when I came in here, the list of airports was traffic control is in place for all flights going to San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, Seattle. And I think they said Salt Lake City, although I thought, wow, I'm not sure we have any commercial flights going to Salt Lake City, but we must have something. So anyway, what they do is these destination airports will go out in concentric circles and they say, we have too many flights coming in at one time. What are the closest flights that we have that we can delay for 5 or 10 minutes and give them a window? And the reason why that's important, I'm going through this, is because San Diego frequently has these windows of opportunity. And if you don't take off in that window, if that flight misses its window, it has to refile for another window, which could cause a delay of up to an hour plus. So these flights have to take off within their window, and the window is usually about 3 minutes wide, maybe 5 minutes wide, depending on the airport. LAX is more narrow, and San Diego is fairly narrow as well. Some of the other, San Francisco is fairly narrow because they have flights coming in from all over the world that you can't delay. They're already in the air. Okay. So the reason why that's important is what I'm going to get to here. So here's the flight 3298. The flight before it, this is the flight path of the Alaska flight going down to San Diego. That's the pattern that it took. That's the standard departure. That's the Monterey 5 departure. Now, here is the SkyWest flight that was complained about. It did that turnout. It was authorized to by ATC. Now I went back and listened.
It's not authorized. It says it's directed. You're actually directed.
Yeah.
And so authorization means that a pilot is allowed to do something. It says it actually in the departure as directed by ATC. That is directed.
Yeah, you're correct. They were directed to do so. And here's why. We're going to get to why in just a minute.
Right.
If that plane followed the standard departure, the Monterey 5 departure, it would be an unsafe scenario traveling too close behind the plane that took off before it.
Right.
In the wake. So you got wake turbulence, which can literally, you can look at YouTube videos. Wake turbulence has flipped commercial airplanes upside down. It's not a good scenario, particularly that close to the ground or the water, as the case may be. But you can, again, going back and forth, you can see how close these planes are. Now, of course, the comment is, well, just have one take off later then. Well, you can't do that. And the reason why is they have these windows that they have in which they have to take off. And if they don't, they'll have to refile a flight plan and get a new clearance. And it delays flights for up to an hour by missing your window. Okay. Now, so here's the conclusion. It was American Airlines 3298, operated on June 1st. Takeoff time was 6:20 a.m. or 13:20 UTC. The flight did not fly the Monterey 5 departure due to the traffic ahead of it. And the reasons are it would be unsafe. So they want the safe separation of aircraft, wake turbulence. Again, if you're flying right behind someone else within so many miles, it takes between 5 to 7 minutes for these aircraft for the wake to fully dissipate. For an A380, for the large, or for a 747 that's fully loaded, the wake turbulence can be as long as 12 minutes. You don't want to fly through that. So that's why they have these separation of aircraft. Okay. So this is the reason why they were directed by air traffic control. In fact, I went and listened. They were initially, so what happens, and I'll go through the procedure. When the pilots are sitting in the flight deck, they will call the Monterey ground on the frequency, usually about 20 minutes before the flight is scheduled to take off. And they will get their flight path.
Clearance.
The IFR clearance. This plane was cleared on the IFR clearance for the Monterey 5 departure, 20 or so minutes before. It's only when the planes are getting ready to take off, as dictated again by the other airports, where the window that in which they need to take off, that's when the tower realized we've got them too close together. So the audio on this one, and you'll hear it in just a minute. I did it on one of these aircraft. You'll hear the audio. When they got their takeoff clearance, they said, "You're clear to take off," and they changed it. They said, "Fly runway heading," instead of flying the Monterey 5 departure. So they directed them to fly the runway heading. Okay, that's the reason why. Okay, next one. Here's another screen grab that we got. And in looking at this one, you can see several facts. Again, I won't go through all of it, but tail number is there. The flight number is there. And the time it took off is there. So getting that, this is a flex jet flight. Looking at that information, here it is. Well, actually, they're out of order again. This is the flight. It was from Monterey to Van Nuys. It was a flex jet flight on June 5th, took off at 9:05 p.m. Right before that flight, a Cessna took off in front of it, and it flew the proper departure flying at, this is a VFR flight, which is different, right? It's VFR, but the VFR, the request that they have of the pilots, and almost all pilots follow it, is you fly out, and we'll have a sign here, I'll show you in just a minute. There are no early turnouts until you get over the freeway, past freeway. Most of them wait till they get out to sort of over the water, then they'll turn. You can see that's what happened here, right? It got over the water or thereabouts, and then it turned heading north.
Can I also just interject?
Yeah, please. Please do. Yeah, as a pilot, please jump in.
So the tower on a VFR flight will often, if there is somebody waiting to take off on, if he was taking off, I don't know if he's 28 right or 28 left, but
28 right.
He's 28 right. Yeah. Okay.
Or,
So
I'm sorry, excuse me, 28 left.
he is well, in any case, to clear the runway heading, the tower will often ask a VFR pilot, please, make your right turn now.
Yeah.
They'll say that.
Yeah, they will frequently do that.
Exactly. So again, I mean, it's a dictation. It's something
Yeah.
that a pilot is told to do, and that is one of the requirements.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to go back and forth between these. When you look at where that plane is, where that Cessna is, right? That's the path. Here's the flight we're talking about. You can't send that plane right up the tail of the Cessna, because that jet will run right into the back of it. You have to have more separation. So again, I listened to the audio. They were originally authorized on the Monterey 5 departure. It was modified when they got their takeoff clearance. And the reasons are safe separation of aircraft, the slower aircraft that took off just before, and the release time, but controlled by the Van Nuys Airport.
Also, you don't have the altitudes here, but I mean that flight, that plane right there is at 8,800 feet when they made that turn.
It shows it right there at 3,300 feet.
Okay, but on the path where they were on what was depicted before, show right there, 8,300.
Yeah. Now again, you don't see the plane here on the screenshot, right? Whoever took this was focused on the flight over New Monterey. The plane at that point was out over the bay, I think.
Oh, where the, all right, okay, so.
At 8,300 feet.
So,
Much
so if you zoomed out, you would see the point.
You'd see the.
Got it.
plane
Now I
right there.
know.
You don't see
Yeah,
the
because there
plane,
was
but-
also one earlier that was at 10,000 feet. I mean, at 2 miles, you're not hearing these planes. You're not hearing.
Yeah, well, yeah. So, but again, as I mentioned, here's the reason why. This is what happened.
Okay.
That the air traffic control, the tower, directed them to fly runway heading for the safe separation of aircraft because they didn't want them to fly, into the tail of the Cessna that took off right before it. Okay, next one.
And they couldn't hold them any longer because Van Nuys gave them a window
That's
of
correct.
when they had to be there.
That's correct. They have a quote release time, and their release time means that's when you take off.
So you can't sit and wait for 15 minutes for the Cessna to get out of the way.
That's correct.
Question.
Yes.
So, understand the release time. What kind of control does the tower have over the VFR departing flight? Because in one scenario, and I understand this may not be possible, but I want to pose a question. Could that VFR flight have been delayed by ATC to allow the Van Nuys flight to take Monterey 5 departure?
Typically not. So typically what
Yeah.
happens is the planes line up in order.
Right, it's-
And if the Cessna was lined up in front, you can't say, hey, do you mind getting out of the way? Because it's really hard to get a plane out of the way.
Okay.
To have them turn and get out of the way of hey, I got 4 flights that need to take off. Now, if that plane was sitting in the run-up area and said, hey, we're ready to go,
Right.
the tower might hold them and say, we've got 2 to take off in front of you.
Well, they're under ground control in the run up area. They're
Yep.
not under tower.
That's correct.
So to come out of run up, you have to call tower and then tower queues you up if you're not already there.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is fairly unheard of. It just doesn't happen because it's sort of, I'll use the phrase first come, first served. If you're
It is.
standing in line first, you get to go first.
Okay, fair enough.
Now, they will have you wait if you have incoming traffic
Yeah.
that's ready, that needs to land.
Yeah.
But that's a different scenario.
Got it. Thank you.
Well, they actually, there are scenarios coming out of San Carlos or anywhere you're near a big Bravo airport. They'll have you actually sit and wait.
Yes.
The tower will, because the tower's talking to the tower of the, and all of those planes that are taking off are all on, they're all on flow control.
Yep.
So they are just pinning, but that's an airport to airport thing. That's not,
Right.
that's not what this
That's
is.
a big airport affecting the smaller airports around. it.
Exactly right. That's
Yes.
exactly right. Yeah,
Okay.
right.
Yeah, and an example of that, for example, I flew to San Bernardino Airport. I was leaving IFR. I had my trainer with me because I'm not IFR rated yet. We asked for a clearance and we waited 30 minutes
Yeah.
just for a clearance. And they said, I don't even have a clearance time because I've got
That's
flow
right.
control
That's
going
right.
on. I'll radio you back. We sat there for literally 30 minutes just to get a release.
Right, right. Got it.
Happens.
Thank you.
Okay. This other one is kind of an anomaly, and let's go. Yeah, here we go. Oh, yeah, this is the one. Okay. Here's the screen grab. So in looking at this information, you've got a tail number N206SY. It's a SkyWest, or actually it's a United flight, 4729 operated by SkyWest. The time is 2:53 on the screen grab. But look at the other flights in the vicinity. You can see that you've got an American 5620 to Denver, and just north of the airport on the bay, just coming just off of the water onto the land, you've got a Cessna 172 coming from Hayward at 1,685 feet. That's important. And the reason why that's important will be evident here in just a minute. Now, notice it's kind of, I apologize, it's kind of hard to see here. But what this is showing is it's showing that the flight took off and made a left-hand turn, which is really odd because this is a flight to San Francisco. You wouldn't make a left-hand turn ordinarily, right? You typically wouldn't even be directed that way at all. So when you look at the actual path of travel, there it is. And so the question is, well, is it a different flight? Because one of the things I was looking at is, well, that flight path doesn't match in a different flight. But you can see the plane from Hayward, the Cessna, just on the north end of the coast there. The other planes on the ground, I will tell you again, quite candidly, it's the same time, the same, the other airplanes are there. Here are a couple of screen grabs. Here's proof of what I'm saying to you. That is the flight path, right? Because you've got the Cessna on the north side, you've got the other plane on the ground, and there are the screen grabs showing that. This is the flight. Now, I want to show you, sometimes there is an anomaly. This flight was operated on April 26th of 2024. Takeoff time was 2:52 p.m. It did use the Monterey 5 departure. Occasionally, you will get a radar anomaly that will show a plane in an incorrect position, or it will show an incorrect flight path. The anomaly is usually corrected a little bit later, but not always. Let me show you a more significant anomaly. That is an impossible flight path.
Yeah.
Literally impossible. So that anomaly shows up from time to time. And I can only conclude this plane, based on what I'm seeing at the actual radar, the left-hand turn that was shown in the screen grab was an anomaly. That plane wasn't actually over the homes. It was actually over the bay. I can't explain why.
Can.
I mean, yeah, please.
Because it's just getting these waypoints, and then the software connects the waypoints. And so that's where it got a hit. And it got a hit either through WAS, got a hit through ADSB, or it actually got a real radar hit. And so somewhere that point got resolved, and then the software drew the line.
Okay.
So it just, and I'll do that sometimes. I mean, I'll see it on my own flight path where I have lost radar contact, but then I pop back up and maybe I have flown like this, but there'll just be a straight line to my next point.
Okay. So again, that is the actual flight path. It did utilize the Monterey 5 departure. So those were the three examples that were provided, because I asked for the examples and I was only given those three, and I chased it down. They were all authorized for the Monterey, or directed to use the Monterey 5 departure. Two of them were directed to change at the last minute. This one actually used the Monterey 5 departure. So now at the Air Service Marketing and Community Relations Committee, the meeting that occurred on, what was it? On August 11. Where's my?
This is the first time this presentation has been given, correct?
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
We asked for it after
Okay.
the last two,
Should have it loaded up for the next committee.
Absolutely. We should be we should
Yes.
replay the tape on this live.
Sure.
For people to see this.
So at the Air Service Marketing and Community Relations Committee on August 11th, and I was participating by Zoom. I was remotely. I will tell you candidly, there was some of the speakers, I don't know if the microphone was turned off or if they weren't speaking directly into it, but I was having a little bit of trouble hearing. But Mr. Fossler identified three specific flights which did not use a Monterey 5 departure. Those are the three flights right there. It was one after another, three in a row that didn't use the Monterey 5 departure. So I drilled down into all of those as well. And I want you to know, we're going to go through one of them start to finish, but all three are virtually identical. Okay, so just so you're aware. So here's what happened. Here's the pathway of all three planes. And you'll notice that they all have a turnout to the north to continue on their course, which immediately signals to me, okay, well, if they're turning to the north, and again, having not yet at the moment, when I just look at this flight path, I'm thinking it's a little strange that they wouldn't use the Monterey 5 departure, because I'm not seeing any traffic. I'm not, seeing any other issues. So then I went to the weather. Here's the weather, and we'll listen to it in a minute. Monterey Tower Information Foxtrot 1854 Zulu, that's the time. Wind 320 at 8, so it was coming out of 320 degrees at 8 knots. Visibility 10, which is 10 miles. 500 scattered. What that means is there were scattered clouds at 500 feet. Scattered clouds for IFR traffic means that clouds are in the sky. between, and they do it in 1/8 increments. So what scattered means is there are clouds in the sky between 0/8 and 4/8 of the sky. Okay, so between no clouds and half obscured. Okay, 4/8 is half.
Thank you for simplifying the fractions.
I mean, yeah, I'm simplifying the fractions, but my math isn't great, but that one's easy for me to do. So you've got scattered clouds. Okay, now at 12:38, now listen, by the way, I don't want you to believe me. Let's listen to it. Well, hang on. I'm not sure this is going to play.
That's AS.
Let me, hang on. There's a thing I can do for audio, and it is, let's see, share computer sound. Please restart your audio sharing application. Okay, never mind. Let me play this for you if you can hear it. I'll turn my volume up. Oh, I'll put the microphone. Yeah, there we go. Let me play this now. This is the weather.
Runway 7 line to about 500 feet. If you lined up for the correct runway. Control full IFR aircraft San Francisco, just through Los Angeles, Seattle, Las Vegas, and San Diego. But there's contact via information Foxtrot.
Okay, so there it is. Okay, so there it is. Information Foxtrot. Again, I don't want people to believe me. That's really what it said. 500 scattered. Okay, I went back and I pulled the audio. By the way, the audio is only available for 7 days publicly. Otherwise, then you have to request it from the FAA. It's a whole process. But because of the timing of when this comment was received, I was able to immediately go get the audio before it disappeared. Now, I want to use this third airplane as the example. Okay. And I'm going to play
So
this.
Scott, to be clear, so what you're saying is because of the clouds and the visibility, they were told to turn.
That is exactly what happened with all 3 of these airplanes. What happened was there were clouds that had shifted over the bay into the Monterey 5 departure. And air traffic control, if they have the ability to direct the plane somewhere else so they can keep their eye on it, they will do that. Why? For safety. So that's exactly what happened to all 3 of these airplanes. All 3 of them were given the Monterey 5 departure about 20 minutes before they took off, or in this instance, 3 minutes before it took off. They received their flight plan, their IFR clearance, which included the Monterey 5 departure. It was only when they were at the end of the runway ready to take off that the tower said, fly runway heading. Why? Because the clouds had shifted and they were then over the bay. And so they wanted to keep their eye on these 3 airplanes. An airplane just before these 3 was able to take off that direction, although it was, I believe it was a VFR flight and it continued turning. And then after these 3, they were able to use the Monterey 5. But again, you've got dynamic weather here. The clouds are moving all the time, right? And so that's what happened with all 3 of these. So let me play the initial IFR clearance for, and again, just for example, I utilized the last of the 3 that took off, but let me play it for you right here. Okay, so you heard the tower gave, or the ground gave the IFR clearance. The pilots read it back and they said, okay, read back correct. They do that to make sure that there's no errors in transmitting that information to them. So I wrote it, I typed it out. What they got was the Monterey 5 departure. Then as filed, which means after they fly the Monterey 5 departure, then they're directed to follow the flight plan as they filed it. And it goes point to point to point all the way to Fort Worth. Okay. Now at 1:01 p.m., they have now taxied down taxiway Alpha all the way to the end, and they're ready to go. And you get the tower. Now you'll hear, by the way, I'll need to explain this because online, when you grab the audio, the ground and the tower are together in the same file. Okay, so you hear both the ground and the tower.
Mhm.
You'll hear two different voices. The first one is the tower saying, "Hey, Ford Juliet Charlie, are you on frequency?" And the ground, recognizing they haven't changed over yet, will tell them, "Hey, Ford Juliet Charlie, contact the tower," telling them, switch over to the tower. Now, why would they tell them to do that before they get to the end of the runway? Because they got to change for them. And they want them to be able to write down this change before they have a critical timing incident. So let's play this one now. This is again, right as they're down near the end of the runway.
Charlie at Flying Tower, on departure, fly runway heading 518, 7,000, wind 310 at 12, runway clear, lost there, takeoff traffic, so hold there, good. Just pick up 287 to runway heading 7,000, for no traffic.
Okay, so what you heard there was they gave them the change because of the weather. That's one of the reasons why they will deviate from the standard departure. It's not an exception. It's not, rogue pilots doing what they want to do. It's for safety. And in this instance, the tower wanted to keep their eyes on the flight rather than sending them through a cloud, right? Makes perfect sense. All three of them were in that same category. And so, by the way, I went back and I chased all these down. I didn't feel the need to go through all of them with you because they're all similar. Besides, this took quite a long time to write up and type out. But okay, now, as we mentioned at the last board meeting, this was in the letter that was sent back. And just as a reminder, I want to go through this. The Airport Noise and Capacity Act of 1990, or ANCA, it imposes several limitations on the local regulation of airports. It prohibits local noise regulation related to aircraft, which includes flight paths, flight patterns, time of flight times, use of space. And I have to, and I'm going to deviate for a minute here. I take great exception to the comments that were made earlier about Mike Lapierre goes and he negotiates the time. We have no control over that. If United Airlines says, "I'm flying into your airport at 5 a.m., they're flying at 5 a.m. It's their schedule,
That's right.
not ours. And they can take ANCA and jam it down our throat if they want to. Now, I take great exception to that. And the reason why is it is a statement that has A, no basis in fact, and B, is stated from no position of even knowledge on the subject matter. Airlines will do what airlines are going to do because they want to stay in business. They want to serve their customers, and they have a limited number of aircraft. And so they have to, in many instances, triage. They want to fly from Monterey to San Francisco or Monterey to San Diego, but that plane is also going to go from San Diego to Tennessee or Dallas or New York or wherever. Yeah. And so they look at the flight times and figure out what is going to make sense for their schedule, for their other aircraft, for their pilots. It's like playing 5D chess. right? Trying to get all these, planes and pilots and people and,
It's
every-
perfectly choreographed.
it is a wonderfully choreographed orchestra, and I could not be that conductor. I will tell you, it's really amazing to see it happen.
So we need to do this again on September 10th. Yeah.
Happy to,
Thank you.
happy
Yeah.
to.
Through the chair. I mean, that I would suggest that's strong.
Is September 10th the next committee meeting?
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
happy to.
It has to be I was listening to the same thing. He should just be that powerful that he dictates exactly when people are gonna fly in and out of here. It's like, if we don't take what they're offering, we don't have anything.
I will tell you, if he had that much power, you'd be able to use it. I mean, you'd be able to tell them, listen, you're going to bring your planes here. You're going to bring, really, it's anyway.
I think it's good. I think
But Scott, there's one more piece to that, and I think this is the community piece. And that is that also, we have a great many people who want to fly east to get in at a certain time, to meet with families, to make connecting flights. They're going to Europe. They want to be able to connect, to get a plane going further east. We have people that fly all over the world from here.
Yes.
And because we are the most farther west airport in the continental United States, we suffer from, they have to get out early in order to make those connections. And that is something that our community asks for. And that obviously that flight is overbooked so many mornings because that is the most popular flight. So the airlines have done their homework. It is not Mike waking up one morning and deciding that he's going to ruin somebody's life with a 5:10 a.m. flight. It is the fact that the airlines have done all of their data. They've looked at it. They see that our population is driving to San Jose or San Francisco to get on those flights. And they say there's a population here that requires that. And they tell us, we know, you just get a notice like, hey, we're starting to have an airline come in at such and such a time, and we're going to change it. Just like they just decided on September 4th, they're not going to fly.
They're not gonna do it.
To Dallas at 5:10 a.m., right? I mean, they tell us when they're coming and they tell us when they're leaving. So
Mike told them.
there was no point today because,
Yep.
people who think that they have facts but they need to be refuted. And I was tempted today to ask, not Mike, because it would be him trying to defend himself, but to ask you to say something. But I think that we need to take that, and then we need to make sure that we all have the correct data to refute it. And it was so outrageous today that I think all 5 of us probably could have refuted it without the help of our professional staff and attorney. It's just a minute, Carol. But I think it's really important that we stay on this, because we had it at the board meeting, we had it at Air Service, and I think that we will continue to have it, and we're going to have it out in the public because people are walking neighborhoods and saying this.
Proliferating misinformation.
Door
Yeah,
to
this
door.
needs to be refuted.
So-
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's really the.
If they say the
important part of it.
misinformation enough times to the uninformed public,
Right, then it becomes
the
true.
truth.
Yeah.
The other thing that I wanted to say that he also said is the curfew. Number one, it was never an absolute, it wasn't like Washington, like national, where absolute drop dead curfew. It was suggested, and it wasn't 10, I think it was 11, but it was never an enforced curfew. It was a suggestion. And for him to say, this is the way it always was, it was not. And it never has been.
Yeah, and actually, we're getting to that in just a minute, but the last point on this is that the airport didn't have any of these regulations in place.
Can I just ask something about that statement?
Yeah.
Is there an absolute, you cannot fly in here after 10 o'clock anywhere? So Carol, I want to say, I think your words are wrong, because there is not that you have a plane load of people and this airport is shut down and you cannot land here after a certain time. It's part of the national transportation system. And if you have 300 people on board, they are not going to circle around.
No, that's what I just said. That is not the case. One place it is the case is at Reagan National Airport, where it is a drop dead curfew and they'll divert you to Dulles. you cannot fly over DC after a certain hour.
Okay,
That's
I'm
the
sure
only
you
place
know
I
much
know
more
of
about the transportation
that I
piece
know of
than I
that
know.
has that drop dead.
But I think it's just important that when we speak that we know what we're talking
Yeah,
about,
we,
which is why
this,
we asked.
this airport has not had any restrictions on flight times, on flight patterns, on flight paths, to my knowledge, ever. But I only have to go back to 1990 because once ANCA was passed, you didn't have any in 1989. And so when ANCA was passed in 1990, you are now prohibited forever from putting them in place. It just can't happen. And it relates to path of travel by airplanes, flight times, use of the airspace, aircraft noise, hours of operation, all of it. You can't do it. Now, where people get things conflated sometimes, there are restrictions on running up engines on the ground. There are restrictions against that. We have them. San Jose has them. Other airports have them. They're common. That's on the ground. Okay, that is not aircraft that's taking off. And I'm going to get to this in just a minute, but again, all of these things that are all the procedures that we ask for, that, you know, the fly quiet things, they're requests, they're voluntary. We're asking pilots who are VFRs to follow them. And the tower will direct people based on safety, traffic, and weather. I just wanted to show you that. I took this last night. I flew in
Can I
yesterday.
just comment on one thing? Because my understanding, an earlier board did pass ordinances enacting the curfew. And FAA said we couldn't do it, but I think those ordinances are still, as I brought this up before, those ordinances are still on our books.
Yeah, I have looked at those. Those are not in effect. They're not effective based on ANCA.
Right, they wouldn't be.
Right, they can't.
But we did pass, an earlier board did pass ordinances trying to do exactly that.
Trying to, and again, they are ineffective, but my research indicates that they may have been rescinded. I've got.
And that would be my concern. If they're on the books, we should get rid of them.
Yeah, I have to look and see. I could not find the documents. There was a reference to a document that they were rescinded, but I couldn't find it. So I'll brush that off again and take a look at it.
Thank you.
But here's a sign that's down near the end of Taxiway Alpha, right by 28 left. That tells me, when I took this last night when I flew in, it was funny when I landed, I asked the tower, can I go down to the run-up area because I need to take a picture? And there was this silence. It's sure. Yeah, go ahead. So I went down and took the picture. Look, it says noise abatement, no turns before the freeway. Now that doesn't get into the nuance of, we really would like you please to not do that. Most pilots follow this, right? Unless they're directed otherwise.
Yes.
Unless they're directed otherwise. Now, there were some other comments at the committee meeting that I heard about grandfathering in a former flight pass, and there was something about easements. I had some audio trouble. I couldn't hear it very well. I just can't say it any more unequivocally. There were no flight pass that were mandated by the airport prior to the passage of ANCA. As such, you can't pass any now. We just can't. All of the efforts are to gain voluntary compliance from the pilots and air traffic control, again, with the caveat based on safety, traffic, and weather. Any flights that take these alternate routes do so for those reasons. Now, there's one other thing I wanted to, that's what came up at the committee meeting. Now, skipping ahead, on Monday, we received a letter from Mr. Grobecker. He mentioned several flights which did not use the standard instrument departure, the Monterey 5 departure. I have not had time to drill down into those flights. I will do that, but when I have time, but I have not had time to do that. It's a fairly laborious process to chase down all of this information. But I do want to talk about the other things that he mentions, because I know he was sent to the board and it was forwarded to me. He says, despite existing noise abatement regulations, there have been numerous instances where these regulations are not adhered to resulting in undue disturbance and environmental harm. There are no noise abatement regulations
Right,
at this airport, period. There are none. That is an untrue statement. It's just not true. There are none.
Good to know.
The standard instrument departure, when it's not followed due to reasons of safety, traffic, or weather, or a combination of those.
Let me just ask for clarification.
Please.
It is in no case pilot's choice. Never.
It is never a simple pilot's choice.
Right.
A pilot cannot say, who is flying one of these, who is told to fly the Monterey 5 departure.
Right.
A pilot cannot say, screw that, I'm just gonna, or, excuse me, forget that.
Yeah.
My apologies to that.
We're rubbing off on him.
I picked the wrong week to stop using foul language. A pilot can't say, forget that, I'm not doing that, I'm just flying where I want to.
Right.
They will immediately get a radio call from the
Right.
tower saying, where are you going? They'll
Got it.
use different words.
That's
of
what I need
course.
to know.
But when they're told to follow a flight plan.
Yeah.
The only way they can deviate that is if they ask permission to, and it usually comes with a reason. Like, for example, I heard as I was flying here yesterday, I heard a Southwest flight going into San Jose saying, hey, we've got turbulence at this altitude. Can we drop down? We're going to descend anyway. And they said, yeah, go right ahead. Okay, well, they asked for permission. They are having turbulence. They want to fly a different flight level. They got it. Happens all the time, right? But that's a safety reason.
If you don't, then you'll actually get the call. They'll let you do whatever you did, and then they'll react to it. But then you get a number, and
You
they
get
tell
a phone number to call.
yeah, call this and it possible pilot deviation, and
Yes.
then you call the FAA directly.
And get your hands slapped.
That's right. And it's
Uh,
embarrassing because that goes over everyone hears it. you
It's
know?
usually more than a hand slap.
Yeah, right.
Usually.
And
But if-
and the FAA will start with, I'm going to take your license, and then you basically have to defend it. It's not a innocence still proven guilty. It's a guilty
It's
still
serious.
proven innocence. Absolutely. So that's one of the things when I read the letter, I was just like, there are no regulations being and there's no pilot that actually wants to even toy with breaking regulation.
So the next bullet, it says, he said in his letter, to address this issue effectively, I propose the implementation of monetary penalties. Well, you can't put in place regulations. You can't put in place penalties. You just can't. And then he referenced again, it says several airports in California, including San Francisco, LAX, and John Wayne, have successfully implemented similar measures. No, they haven't. There are no restrictions that they have done, with the exception of those that were in place prior to 1990. And I referenced it at the last board meeting, John Wayne, or Santa Ana. When you take off, they have a takeoff procedure that they ask you to follow. And it's for noise abatement. It was there prior to 1990. It's called a full performance takeoff. You sit at the end of the runway. They spool up the engines, they go full throttle with the brakes on, and it feels like you can feel the plane shaking. Then they release the brakes, they take off, and they take off steeper than normal, and then the plane levels off, and they pull the throttle back until you're over the bay. That was in place before 1990. So as a result, it was allowed to stay. Now, what they can't do is they can't make that more restrictive. They can make it less restrictive with permission from the FAA. And by the way, there are airports that have done that, right? Make them less restrictive, but you can't make it more restrictive. There are currently, there's no ability to do the monetary penalties. If you were to try that, there are no existing mandatory noise abatement regulations. The Monterey 5 departure procedure is not a noise abatement regulation. It was never designed to be a noise abatement regulation. It was designed to send the traffic over the bay to reduce the noise over the community when it's allowed by safety, traffic, and weather. Okay, now, these last two sentences. If you were to try and put in place some penalties or some regulations right now, you have two problems. One, the FAA will withhold future funding to this airport. They'll say, look, you're in violation of our grant assurances. We're not giving you more money until you withdraw it. Number two, if you did that, you would likely get litigation first from the AOPA, because they look to this stuff to try to take it on for people, for airports that are doing things they shouldn't be doing. And some of the charter companies would likely, because they would be in theory racking up penalties, you know, all day long. Right. So I can't, anyway.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yeah.
So we're going to do this on the 10th.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So I will research those other flights just to take a look at them, but happy to answer
do we
any
even
questions
need
you
to?
have. But I think we have exhausted, you know, the complaints that we have received thus far. I don't.
Well, Scott, on behalf of all of us, thank you, because four of us are not pilots, and four of us do what we can with policy on many things, but on this, and when there are just so many certain statements made coming from the community, it is very difficult to separate what is truth, what is fiction, what is just people talking and then beginning to believe whatever. So we have to have the facts, and I really, really appreciate it.
Well, this is giving you facts like as if you were taking a drink from a fire hydrant.
You know, I get it. But,
So,
but honestly, the untruths are coming in
Yeah.
like they're coming out of a fire hose too.
Yeah.
Because they're just everywhere and they're floating around. And the more people say it, the more they begin to believe it. And that's the hard part of it.
Is
So
there a place that can go on the website that can be that kind of information that would be available to people?
Well, look, this is being video recorded. This will go on YouTube. I mean, you can certainly send people to it, you know, and give them the time frame as to where
Maybe somewhere in the website that it annoys, I don't know.
yeah, we're not having a committee meeting, so we're not
Yeah,
discussing it.
let's
Just
do
the
that.
presentation. So we've got a whole lot to get through, but we need to know this. And Scott, thank you. And I'm sorry, Mr. Fossler wasn't here to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Next item, number 5, resolution number 1886, the resolution authorizing professional services agreement with Kimley Horn and Associates to provide program management for runway 28 left, 10 right, improvement project, construction, observation services. Who is that?
That would be me.
Chris?
Good morning. So this is in tangent with the resolution 1885 that we passed earlier this morning for the construction, for the work on runway 28 left, 10 right. Staff, as you can see, we have a small staff, a mighty staff, but staff can't be here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So we employ the use of consultants to help us manage projects, especially when the projects are happening at nighttime during closures. So with this, Kimley Horn has been our program manager for a number of projects. We did an RFQ in the last year to, again, look at our hiring processes. And Kimley Horn was determined to be the most suited engineering firm to provide the construction program project management. So with that, we asked for a scope of work. We did an independent fee estimate on their cost. And that was validated by their costs being within 2% and of the independent fee estimate. And in FAA's world, if it's within 10%, it's considered a reasonable cost. So the scope of the proposed contract is not to exceed $249,010 to provide that program management for the runway project at night and help with help and augment staff to be our eyes and ears on the field when the project is in construction. So with that, we'd ask that you consider resolution 1886 and authorize the professional service agreement with Kimley Horn. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I'll open it up to the public. Is there anyone on Zoom that would like to comment on this?
See no hands, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. I'll bring it back to the board. Carol, I'll start with you.
No questions, thank you.
Okay, Carl,
I have none.
Jen,
None. No.
Tina.
None?
All right. Can I have a motion, please?
Move approval, adoption of resolution number 1886.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Director Shabazian,
Aye.
Director Gagliardi,
Aye.
Director Pick,
Aye.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Chair Leffel.
Yes, thank you. Okay, item number 6 is an amendment to the professional services agreement with Tartaglia Engineering to provide construction support services for the runway 28 left, 10 right improvement project. Yeah,
Again,
Yep.
yep. The third one that goes along with the group here. This one, in May of this year, you authorized a contract for professional services with Tartaglia Engineering to do the design for the runway project, which we then went out to bid in June and had bids in hand, and you just approved the contract. So as the engineer of record, they are the ones that need to review all of the documents, the submittals, the product that will be used by the contractor, because they are the engineer that has stamped those construction documents. So this is to support the construction, review all of the documents, attend the weekly construction meetings as they happen, and support Kimley Horn. Even though Kimley Horn are engineers, they are not the engineers of record for the design of this project. So they will be supporting staff and the program managers as the engineers of record to review all of the submittals and provide us with a final engineering report that we need to submit to close out the grant at the back end. So with that, I'd ask that you consider the contract amendment with Tartaglia in a not to exceed cost of $153,500. Happy again to answer any questions.
Thank you. Again, I'll open it up to the public on Zoom. If you have any comments, questions,
No hands, Madam Chair.
thank you. And I want to make it clear, there's no one in our chambers except us. So there's no one here from the public. Open it up to the board. Dino,
No questions?
John,
None.
Carl,
No.
Carol? All right. I would entertain a motion on the amendment with Tartaglia.
I'll move approval of the amendment to the professional services agreement with Tartaglia Engineering.
I'll second.
We have first and second. Roll call, please.
Director Shabazian,
Aye.
Director Gagliardi,
Aye.
Director Pick,
Aye.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Chair Leffel.
Yes, thank you. Item number 7, resolution number 1887, a resolution accepting the guaranteed maximum price from Auto Construction for the Safety Enhancement Program Taxiway A relocation, Phase D3 Terminal Complex Landside Improvement Circulation Elements.
Yes, a mouthful.
Hmm.
And we have been busy, as you can see. In June of this year, you approved a contract with Auto Construction to be our construction managers at risk. And in the terminal presentation this morning, Bart alluded to that they are looking at the land side. They are working with the architects to look at value engineering to make sure that we put in the best product, but not the gold-plated piece. So we're looking at really making sure everything is what we want it to be, is aesthetically pleasing, but also is cost effective. So
We want platinum with a bronze price.
Hmm.
for sure. So with that, Otto has done bids. So from the time of June to the time of July, they went out to bid to the trades for all of the components of the landside circulation and parking. But right now we're taking these separately because FAA is going to fund them separately. So this fiscal year, we have a grant, and we have a grant for the terminal as well. So all the ones that you just approved are in our grant agreement application or grant application that's into FAA, waiting on award. Same with this. We have a grant application in based on the design of the contract with Auto and their guaranteed maximum price to for the landside circulation. And FAA has determined that the circulation elements, which are the roads, so that when we were talking, again, looking at the terminal this morning and the presentation, the way all the traffic is going to get to the terminal, those 5 lanes in front, that island, all that curb front, and then the circulation outside of the arms of the parking are all considered eligible under discretionary funding from FAA. So that's why we're separating these out. But with that, they have gone out to the trades and have come up with what we call a guaranteed maximum price. So it's a not to exceed of $16,919,500. And now they will be working with the design team that HOK has. So with Rana, with BKF, who are their engineers for the civil engineers as part of the architect team, and with HOK themselves to come up with value engineering components and hopefully bring this down. But at this point, that is what they believe, based on the design we have today, would be our guaranteed maximum price to pay for that. So with that, we'd ask that you consider Resolution 1887 and accept this guaranteed maximum price from Auto Construction. Again, happy to answer questions.
Thank you. I'll go out to the public if there are any comments on this item, number 1887 resolution.
No hands, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. Bring it back to the board. Carol?
Questions?
Carl?
Thank you. So our match is going off the staff report here, 9.34%. So that amounts to about $1.5 million, some change. How much money do we have in our PFC account?
But this is going to be good 18 months of construction.
Okay.
So we will be collecting while we're still waiting for everything to, but.
But we're going to be hitting it for other things too.
We will be hitting it for other things too.
So how would that work in the future if we expend all our money? Then we would bridge that with a loan, or I'm curious.
Yeah, you can bond against future PFCs,
Okay.
which is likely part of the equation as we put together the final finance package. So you can bond against those or borrow against those. So that's where you'll end up when we start to see that disconnect between how much we collect and how much we have to spend.
Yes.
You're going to be borrowing or issuing debt associated with it, but you can pledge your PFCs to do that.
Good. And it's another good thing when we have more employments because our PFCs grow faster. Okay, thank you.
Our measly $4.50 per employment.
It adds up.
John?
The only question I ask or I have is the contractors and even kind of reaching back, Granite Rock, Tartaglia and Auto, they're all local, correct?
Yes, they are. That is correct.
Excellent.
And Kimley Horn has an office right over
Yeah,
here.
Kimley, I knew, yeah, but they're a national firm, but I just wanted to kind of point out that all of these contracts here are the majority of these contracts here, and they're not insignificant. These are local contractors.
These
Thank
are
you.
local contractors are going to be pulling from the local union hall.
Yes.
Nice.
Needed for laborers.
Excellent. What a wonderful thing. I'm glad you just did that. No other questions.
Adina?
No questions.
All right. I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second. John.
We have a first and a second on resolution 1887. Roll call, please.
John, sure.
Director Trabajian,
Aye.
Director Gagliardi,
Aye.
Director Pick,
Aye.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Chair Leffel.
Yes, thank you. All right, item number 8, we're going to listen to an amendment to the professional services agreement with Kimley Horn and Associates, Inc. to provide project management in support of the Safety Enhancement Program Taxiway A relocation, Phase D3 Terminal Complex Landside Improvements.
Last one I have for you today.
Mhm.
So yes, this would be amendment to the existing agreement that we have with Kimley Horn as part of they are our program managers of record for all of the components of the safety enhancement program, which is all of the the projects that we've been doing for moving taxiway alpha eventually. So this amendment would be to support what Otto's doing, the one that you just approved, and the guarantee maximum price to do the construction observation, be our eyes and ears along with staff, to augment staff, to help ensure that we not only get the best price and the best project at the same time, and be our interface as well as engineers with the architects and the engineers to ask questions, which they've done very effectively to date for us. So this is a phase 8 of all of the projects that they've been doing. So we'd ask that you consider this amendment in a not to exceed cost of $295,970. Again, this is included in the grant request that is currently been programmed, and we're waiting for the grant agreement to come out and sign it. So this will be covered by those costs as well. And again, to your question before, it does have a PFC match as well. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, I'll open it up to the public on Zoom.
See no hands, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. I'll bring it back to the board. Dina?
No questions.
Okay, John?
None.
Carl?
Nothing.
Carol?
No questions.
I have none. I'll entertain a motion on the professional services agreement with Kimley Horn.
So move. Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Director Tribajian,
Aye.
Director Gaglione,
Aye.
Director Pick,
Aye.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Chair Leffel.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Our last issue here is resolution number 1888, a resolution adopting a freeze on meeting stipends at the current level. And I'm the one that asked for this. So I will just say that I think when I first came on the board, it was somewhere around, I don't know, $75, $80, 90 maybe. It was low. And a few years ago, Director Sabo raised his hand and said he believed that it was too low and that we should look at raising it to more appropriately compensate the directors for the time that they spent preparing for meetings, traveling to and from meetings, of which we do not get gas expense. I'll be clear on that. And also the time in meetings. So we came up with a formula and we changed what we were doing in 2018 and set where it would just have an annual increase and it wouldn't have to come back. But I personally was looking at it and I thought to myself, I think it's at a point that we could put a stop on it. Our meetings are not the 8-9 hour marathons that they were in the past. And that it's my opinion that this is an appropriate compensation, that we're not in here, any of us, for a salary or trying to pay our rent off of it. We are here to serve the public and not to use up district funds for ourselves. So it was me that asked for it. That is that's my report, and I'll open it up to the public.
No hands, Madam Chair.
All right, and I'll bring it back. And Carol, can I start with you?
No questions. I agree. I don't know that. I think it's absolutely fair and right.
Carl?
Yeah, I think we were at 127 now or
And
something.
63 cents.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds fair.
Maybe a penny more.
Yeah.
And John?
I absolutely agree with the sentiment, and I think that the makeup of the board, it totally works. I would just love to like to know that there is the opportunity that if we have a change in any of our board members that need for like childcare or something that they're working and or something like that, or that the board would have the flexibility to no.
Well, I think the board does have the authority.
Yeah.
Yeah,
going
we do.
forward.
Then
We do.
all right. then I accept this and I think that this is fine. I'm going to support it.
Dino.
You, to use the colloquial phrase, this currently would put a freeze on it. You have the ability to thaw it in the future. if you want
Perfect.
to.
That's all. I just
Bake
want
it,
to
shake
see-
it up.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Change the recipe.
All right.
Madam Chair, I think I agree with the sentiment completely and concur with the resolution.
Okay. So anyway, I've given you my 2 cents and, you know, I guess when fast food people start making $50 an hour, we'll look at it. So,
Madam Chair, I'll move adoption of resolution number 1888.
I'll second.
perfect. Roll call, please.
Director Trabajian,
Aye.
Director Gaglioti,
Aye.
Director Pick,
Aye.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Chair Leffel.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, we are going into closed session. Thank you. Thank you. It's 11:59 and we are back from closed session and we have no reportable action in closed session. So we have some board reports. And did either of you have any questions on any of the reports?
No.
No.
I actually did. And there was one from Ops, I think, and it talked about the tower gate was broken.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
It's
guessing that's
unlocked.
not
It's open.
our obligation, but did they fix it?
Tech ops fixes their.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I was like, wow, that's kind of crazy. Somebody could just wander into the
Hour.
tower.
Yeah. I did
Yeah,
see it.
I do have a question on the air service community relations. So you had what, 4 people show up?
Correct. Three.
How long
spoke-
did it
three-
last?
3 spoke. I think the time for the 3 of them who spoke, it was about 27, 28 minutes total.
And-
It took
and
all
no-
of that for me to get online with you. So yeah, you were done by the time I got online.
With them.
I got about-
Yeah.
About 25 minutes.
Because it was about a 50-minute meeting and they were roughly about half of it.
Okay.
And there's no, so it's not public comment. They can say whatever they want as long as they can.
It's a committee meeting, so we actually had a dialogue with them and allowed them to have a dialogue. Unlike,
I know coming back,
unlike today.
they're coming back next month, yeah.
Yeah, this is his plan.
So, so no one else had anything else on any reports?
If I was looking at the one report, oh no, that's not, never mind, it's not a committee report, sorry.
Okay. LAFCO is canceled this month, so there will be another month of no LAFCO, and not that you all care, but I told you I'd keep you apprised. Airport Land Use Commission canceled this month also. So,
Are those still meeting here?
yeah. So anyway, so those are my reports. Do we have anything else? Nothing? MC?
Tampsey did not meet last month. So they do meet this month, end of the month.
Well, MPAD unfortunately met on last Wednesday night, but I was busy at Motorlux, so I did not attend. Yeah. Well, you
Did
know,
take Motor Lux? I didn't see.
90% of
see
the
you were
people
from-
don't even know that anything goes on here, or 95. So,
Okay,
okay, so I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second,
All in favor? Bye.
aye.
12:02, we're done.
I found out that my office is texting me. I had some people going whale watching and apparently there are rough seas and everything's